short while ago, 6 rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip towards southern Israel. 2 were intercepted by the Iron Dome anti-missile defense system. No injuries have been reported. Iraqi government aircraft hit Sunni militant positions while a first batch of Russian-made fighter jets arrived in Baghdad to bolster the Iraqi forces. And Brazil and Colombia are the first teams to qualify for the quarterfinals of the World Cup, as the Netherlands just beat Mexico to join them, and Greece takes on Costa Rica later on. Well, welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. Well, today is the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, a time of deep reflection for Muslims worldwide. But this year, as fighting rages from Iraq to Syria, the impact of the month-long holiday that it will have on the region is still unclear. But for now, one thing is clear: the warring sides in Iraq are shoring up their battle lines for what appears will be a lengthy conflict with deep religious and historical roots. With me to examine the complexity of the situation is Iranian political analyst Meir Javedanfar and investigative journalist Martin Himel. Well, thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly a lot to talk about in relation to this conflict now as ISIS has been advancing here. First, let's mention Ramadan here. It comes every year. It's intersected with many other regional conflicts in the past here. Do we have anything that we can look at to say that this serves as a precedent for what may take place during the month of Ramadan right now?
I don't think that both sides are going to take Ramadan into consideration. I think the war is going to continue. I think what's very important for the government of Iraq is to see whether they can use the newly purchased Russian jets to make advances. It's very important for them to try and take back the city of Tikrit. And if that happens, that may give Nouri al-Maliki some breathing room. If that doesn't happen, then I think Ayatollah Sistani's call for him to be replaced is going to gather more steam.
Oh, let's talk about these jets again for a minute. You bring this up now. These jets have arrived in pieces. They're not exactly a piece of equipment that you push the start button on and they run and do their thing. You need to have trained pilots. You need to have functioning ammunition here. How likely do you think it is that this will have an impact right now on the situation?
Well, I think it will have an impact, but I think the fact of where the jets come from is the most important thing here. They didn't come from the United States. They haven't come from NATO. They've come from Russia. Russia is Syria's big ally. Russian pilots or Syrian pilots fly those Suhois. Iraqi pilots don't fly them. So I don't know who exactly is going to be flying them, but it's part of this Syria, Iraq, Russia, Iran axis, and that says something.
Absolutely. After 10 years of nation building and direct military assistance to the Iraqis, I want to ask you why now turn to the Russians?
Well, because I don't think they want to follow the American game. The American game is reconciliation, nation state, some sort of consensus. I was in Baghdad when the last American soldier left. I interviewed the Shiite vice president and the Sunni vice president. The Sunni vice president.
2011, you're speaking
That's right.
about.
Yes, the Sunni vice president basically said this is going to be a disaster, and the Shiite president
who was quickly removed, actually, as vice president.
As a matter of fact, his name is Tariq al-Hashemi. The day after I interviewed him, the very day after I interviewed him, he was wanted for terrorism charges and ran off to the north, to the Kurdish area. And I said to myself then that this country is not going to last. If the prime minister and the Shiite vice president are going to arrest the Sunni vice president, the leader of the Sunnis, basically, there's no hope for this country. And it looks like that today.
Speaking of hope for the country, Mayor here, do you believe that there's any chance for a political solution to this crisis?
I think as far as the Iranian side is concerned, there are some in Iran who seem to be calling for Maliki, or believe that Maliki should be removed, and actually believe that Iran has made a mistake to become involved in Iraq.
It seems to be the dominant Sunni voice right now across Iraq, even from within Baghdad, that they want to see Maliki go.
They want to see Maliki go. There are people within Iran who also, there have been a number of articles in Iran saying that, Iran may have overcommitted itself. Iran is involved in Syria, Iran is involved now in Iraq. These things cost money. And let's not forget, it's one thing to send Iranian forces to Syria. It's another to send it to Iraq. Remember the 8-year war. There's a lot of history. I mean, for an Iraqi to see an Iranian soldier is far more different for a Syrian to see them. I think, but there are other voices in Iran who want Nouri al-Maliki to stay. What will happen at the end? I think Iran wants to use the current crisis in Iraq in order to boost its leverage in the region at the nuclear talks, but also in the region to be seen as the power broker.
Certainly significant influence today,
very.
perhaps the strongest influence even in the region.
Very, but they made a mistake with Nouri al-Maliki. They need to get out of this. This is not an easy situation for Iran. And I think in the long term, they may realize that they walked into a trap, because to become involved in Iraq and Syria, Iran for many years tried to be bipartisan in the Arab world. In the Muslim world, they wanted to be both with Sunni and Shia, but the way they're seen is they're with the Shia.
I think there's a few wild cards that have to be played before we know where we're at. Remember, there's this unholy alliance between ISIS and the Baaths. And basically, the Sunnis are a series of tribes.
Saddam's old loyal,
right?
Saddam's
and they're not religious. They're fun-loving. They're hard people. And right now, there's an unholy alliance. But once that has settled a bit, then we'll see what happens with this unholy alliance. And it'll probably be a fight between the Baaths and the Sunnis. And then we have to see what happens with that. And only after that, I think we'll have a better idea where the Shiite-Sunni cards go.
You mentioned something certainly central here, and this has been already many Sunni leaders around the region are saying, first, we need to see Maliki go. First, we need to get the Shiites out of power. But second, it will come Sunni against Sunni. The Sunnis will then work it out between themselves following. So it sounds as if there's a multi-staged war around the corner here now. I'll put the same question to you. Do you believe there's any chance for a political solution here, or are the sides just preparing for war?
I think this is a mega headache in Washington. They walked away from this. Now it's coming back at them. The New York Times and other people have been quoting people close to Joe Biden, who's been saying for a long time, look, this country is going to divide into a Kurdish, Sunni, Shiite area. At best, it can be a federation. At worst, it's just going to be warfare. And I think that the United States is letting it go that way. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing Russian jets come there and not F-16s.
I think one of the worst case scenarios that we should try to hope that it's avoided is attack on Shiite holy sites. Let's not forget that the Al-Qaeda already attacked the 11th Shiite Imam, the father of Imam Mahdi, in Samarra, if I'm not mistaken. They not only attacked the mosque, they blew up the dome. They're rebuilding the dome.
And they're stating that they will come after all the
exactly.
holy sites.
And if this thing happens, if there is an attack against Imam Ali's shrine in Najaf or Imam Hussein's shrine in Karbala, I think what we're seeing now is probably going to look mellow compared to what we could see in the future. And we should also see, ISIS say that they want to attack Baghdad. We also have to wait and see if they will do it, because I'm not so sure. Because Nouri al-Maliki, there's been a lot of ethnic cleansing in Baghdad. There's now a lot more Shia than Sunni. A lot of the Sunnis were driven out by the Maliki government and some of the Shiite militia there. So we have to wait and see what they'll do in Baghdad.
If the country does end up becoming partitioned on the ground for real here, which seems to be where things are headed, who stands to benefit the most?
I think Iran wants to see Iraq intact. Iran does not want to see Iraq broken up, first and foremost because if the Kurds in Iraq become independent, that could give Iranian Kurds a model to follow.
And Syrian as well.
And Syria as well.
The implications go towards Turkey.
I actually think we're going to see a new policy come in, a new policy with an old name, containment. That was used in the Cold War. And I think that Jordan, Israel, the United States, Turkey, even Iran are going to say, this arch between Syria and Iraq is a hotbed. It's crazy. They're going to go at each other for quite a while. What we have to do, and it's a common interest, let's contain it. Let's not let it spread. And I think the players all around there, from Saudi Arabia right around that ring, will want to see containment for now.
Well, the term civil war has begun to get thrown around more and more in the last few days, but perhaps a more accurate description is a Sunni revolt right now against the Shiites who have taken a lot of power. Meir, do you agree with that sentiment, that this is less of a civil war for now, or an existential battle between Shiites and Sunni, and more of a Sunni revolt against Shiite policies in the last years?
What we saw after the fall of Saddam Hussein was Shia fighting against many years of Sunni abuse of hegemony. And then the shoe went on the other foot. And now the Sunni are fighting against what they see as Shia hegemony and abuse of power. But what we have to say, and this is what brings back to one of the points we discussed, is that General Petraeus got some of the very Sunnis that are fighting with ISIS to fight ISIS, to fight against Al-Qaeda and against ISIS. Maliki came and he stopped paying these people, so then they went and joined ISIS, and we are where we are. Unless somebody comes with cash and with political leverage and says to the Sunnis, there is going to be future for you to come back into the fold. We're going to give you seats. We're going to listen to you. We're not going to kick out Mr. Tariq al-Hashemi on charges of terrorism while Malik is on terrorism. People stay. If that happens and the Sunnis are convinced, there could be a chance for Iraq. But I think as far as the Iranians are going to be concerned, they will want to hold on to the Shiites, but they don't have any cards in terms of dealing with the Sunnis, which I think we're probably going to look at Iraq being broken up to 3 states.
Well, I guess as long as Mr. Maliki's there, it's going to be a broken up country, because I think he's made his decision. He'd rather have a Shiite rump state than the whole country. And I guess if Mr. Maliki goes, then maybe there'll be other moves.
Now, as you saw him step into power while in Baghdad, or you saw that this coming, you mentioned, do you feel that there is any political future for Maliki here? Is there a chance for him to hold on, with so many now calling for him to step down, with the violent movement on his doorsteps, essentially?
I think it's a matter of Maliki turning to his allies and his opponents within Iraq, people like Muqtada al-Sadr, others, where they stand, and if he has enough power to stay in, I think he's basically opted for a rump state, just like Assad has maybe opted for a rump Shiite state.
Is there anyone credible to replace him? Are there any Sunni leaders that could step up and actually say, I represent the Sunni world?
Not Sunni, but Ayatollah al-Sistani has called for a replacement to Maliki, for Maliki to be found by Tuesday. So we have to wait till Tuesday. Ayatollah Sistani usually doesn't become involved in politics. It's very rare for him to make such a call. It shows how delicate and urgent the situation is. We have to wait and see who is going to be there are some people say Ahmad Chalabi is one of them. Of course, he lied through his teeth.
Marginalized politicians at this point.
There's like 4 other people. Jafari is another person who's being. We don't know. There's a lot of backroom deals that are going on, but we have to wait and see I think we have to wait and see how much progress Maliki makes on the battlefront. If he can bring the Shiites together to retake some of the cities, I think that could give him some breathing room. But the latest I heard is that the Iraqi army is not doing very well in Tikrit.
No, we couldn't get into Tikrit.
So,
there's been conflicting reports of that in the last days, as state TV in Iraq has claimed advances by the
Iranians have been
army.
saying also, but the BBC said that they're not making.
But people have been phoning into people in Tikrit, and the army's not in there. They're on the outside firing, but not in the city at this stage.
Again, some Sunni tribal leaders have come forward saying that they have the power to oust these ISIS militants, but they're not interested in that right now. First, they want to see Maliki go. This seems to be the central theme across the Sunni spectrum, if it's possible to generalize that right now.
Well, that's why I say that
who could take his place?
Well, I think we have to see certain cards played. I think we'll wait till Tuesday and see if Maliki is still there. If he's still there, obviously they're playing the card of the Shiite controlled country that's smaller. And with the Sunnis, we have to see what's going to happen between ISIS and these sheikhs. Don't discount the leaders of the tribes. They're very strong. They're very tough. They have a lot of loyalty. And I wonder how smart or not smart the ISIS people are in that sense. And I think we have to see what comes out of that too.
I'd like to add something here. Just let's not think that, let's just say imagine that Nouri al-Maliki goes. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden the conflict's going to end. This is going to go for, even if there's somebody else, it's going to take a long, just think about it. The last election, not this previous one, the Iraqi elections before, it took 10 months for a government to come together. They kept going to Tehran, and they were negotiating with the Iranians, and the Iranians were talking to the Iraqis, and the Saudis were becoming involved.
That was without the country
and this is
overrun by
exactly.
militants.
And now, if there is even, let's just say Nouri al-Maliki on Tuesday, he goes. Does that mean that a week? I don't think even in perhaps a month, it will take longer than that to come to a deal, if there is even going to be a deal.
But you mentioned Iran now, the dominant power broker in the region. Recently, Maliki came out and said that, yes, the Syrians launched airstrikes now. Was this the hand of Iran now, basically orchestrating things through the Syrian regime, through the Iraqi central government regime now? Again, are we seeing basically the real power brokers here, Iran, making moves and calling the shots?
I think Nouri al-Maliki listens to the Iranians. What happened with the Syrian Air Force doing it, I think could have been coordinated with Iran, probably because we have to remember that the chief of the Quds Force, IRGC Quds Force, General Soleimani, has been visiting in Iraq, or he could be there right now as we speak. I don't want to say that Ayatollah Khamenei is giving them his instructions. I'm not so sure, but this is almost definitely happening with coordination with Iran. But again, this is not going to solve anything, these airstrikes.
Thank you both so much. Time is short here. Unfortunately, a situation that we'll be talking about for some time to come. Martin Himel and Meir Javedanfar, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And thank our viewers here for being with us. We'll be right back after a short break with One on One.